Good morning, boys and girls of class 8. Today open the chapter Everything for the Best of Your Literature in page number 25. Now I'll explain to you this chapter in a nutshell. Everything for the best. This is a saying quite mostly oft repeated by persons who are optimistic in nature. Those who are always positive in thinking, they on and on, they repeatedly say everything for the best. Everything that happens is for the best. Just like every cloud has got a silver lining, even the most unfortunate things which takes place in our life is a blessing in disguise. Might be unfortunate for that time being, but in the long course of time, in the future course of action, it sometimes turns to be a blessing in disguise. Now in this chapter, the main character is the king. He was very rich. He was very rich and powerful. He was very rich and powerful, and he was ably assisted by one of his very efficient administrator, an advisor, or a minister of whatever you say. His name was Pratap Singh. Pratap Singh, advisor to the king. Advisor to the king. Regarding administrative affairs. Regarding administrative affairs. Which is it. Now the story is a story of a long time back. During the ancient times, when this king used to rule over a vast kingdom, and he was very rich and powerful king, and his close friend or aide, his name was Pratap Singh, who ably advised him. Now Pratap Singh is a man very optimistic in nature, has a very positive thinking always. And whatever incident takes place, this kingdom of this king had undergone a period of famine, war, epidemic, and there was destruction, devastation, deaths, sufferings, misery. And when the king used to ask his friend what to do, his friend used to say, everything for the best. Let that happen. Whatever God will, let it happen. But everything is for the best. Whatever happens, whatever unfortunate incidents happens, whenever the king inquires from his advisor Pratap Singh used to say, Your Majesty, everything is for the best. Let whatever happen, let it take its own course. Everything will be for the best. Everything is a blessing in disguise for future. Off and on, every time the king used to hear this, sometimes he used to get irritated. But Pratap Singh was very much staunch. He always stood by what he said. One day, the king took Pratap Singh to the jungle for hunting. And in the dense jungle, felt hungry, and they found a wood apple. old apple. Found a old apple. The king drew out his sword and tried to cut that apple. But subsequently, the sword slipped from his hand and it cut his finger. Left hand, first finger. His finger, left hand, first finger, was severed from his body. He was profusely bleeding. The sword was lying near his foot. And he was groaning in pain. But still on seeing it, Pratap Singh told the king, "Your Majesty, everything is for the best. Perhaps your separation of the finger from your hand is an indication that something good is going to happen in the future course of action, future course of time in your kingdom." On hearing this, the king got furious and he drove out Pratap Singh and told him to get out of his sight. Abiding by the king's order, Pratap Singh went away, and the king, profusely bleeding, groaning in pain, since his finger was severed from his hand, sat down at the bottom of the tree and fell asleep. He was hungry also. The bleeding of the finger, the cutting of the finger was giving him much more pain, but he felt sleepy and he felt asleep. Now in the dense forest, some jungle tribesmen were roaming around because they will be performing their annual festival of pleasing their tiger goddess, and for that they were in search of a sacrifice to be given at the altar of tiger goddess to please. On seeing this king, fast asleep, they felt very happy. Oh, what a handsome man this is. This would be a perfect sacrifice to please our tiger goddess. They tied up the king and took him to the chief. The chief was very much pleased on seeing a king, a man of royal blood. The royal blood will be sacrificed at the altar of the tiger goddess. Very pleased. He called out the priest of the tribesmen. He was an old man. He came. Now, the rituals was that, the process was that, until and unless the old priest gives his nod that the sacrifice is, that the object to be sacrificed is perfect for God, tiger goddess, only then it will be placed at the altar. The old priest, while seeing the king off, it's a very good thing. Tiger God will be pleased. And when they took king to the altar, and at the altar they laid him down to be sacrificed before the tiger god, their god of understanding, and the tribesmen were very much busy in dancing very wildly, throwing out red and yellow powder, putting on verminal on the forehead of the king because he was to be sacrificed before their god. But while this process was going on, the old priest noticed that something is wrong. He did not check the king before placing him in the altar, neither he checked it from the head to the toes, and he found that one of the fingers was not there. He immediately asked the tribesman and the chief to stop, since this king is imperfect and they cannot allow an imperfect thing to be placed at the altar for sacrifice. And when they noticed that the king's left hand finger was severed from the body, The tribesmen got afraid, they ran away from there, leaving the king over there. And the king was saved. Pratap Singh came and said, so everything for the best. So this is the story. But the deep underlying meaning is that whatever happens in our life, maybe unfortunate things take place in our life, for the time being we suffer sufferings, misery, pain, anguish. But in the long run, might be something good might happen in our life. That's all.